Let's try drawing and coloring an eye today. In a previous video we did create an eye, but this time I think it would be fun to color that and see how far we can go. It doesn't have to be a very complex eye. We're just doing a simple upward line, downward line, and a half circle there in the middle. That's going to give us a good basis for our eye. We can add some highlights to there, maybe square, like windows reflected into the eye, and a small circle in the middle, which would be the pupil of the eye. You want to make sure that that is centered inside of the colored part of the eye. You don't want it to be to the right or the left too much there. Okay, so once we have that in place, we can definitely rough in an eyelid or even an eyebrow. But the main part of today is looking at using color on that, so you don't have to put too much time into detailing anything outside of the eye itself. Once that's in place and you're happy with it, you may want to say, okay, I'll have a little bit of more of a lower eyelid there, narrow that eye a little bit more, that's fine. And then we have a little bit of a lower eyelid going on underneath the eye. And let's think about our color. Interestingly enough, when we go to color, we're actually going to erase a lot of our lines and just lightly erase them, so that's not interfering with the colored pencil. It may seem strange to erase something you've just drawn, but we're just lightly erasing it. We're not taking that completely out. We can still see our base lines, we can still see our eye. We're going to start with pure black to do the center of the eye, and then we can add on some color to that so it doesn't look so flat. I'm using a Prismacolor black pencil. You can use any colored pencil you want, but there are some softer, waxier pencils that may work a little bit better using this layering technique, and Prismacolor Premier is one of those brands. There are many other brands. Whichever brand you use, you are going to want to layer though. Even with the simplest, most basic colored pencil, if you add layers, it's going to be a richer look. So in this case, I'm taking an indigo blue and adding that to the black. And that's going to give me a richer look. I can add black on top once more if I want to. And that will give me just a much darker and richer look than if I used only black or only blue. So that's the result there. With my dark blue again, my indigo blue, I can do the outside of that eye, give myself a nice rim of color around that. I think that's going to look really nice and blend well into the rest of the eye. I'm using little sideways strokes, and then for the outside I'll clean it up a little bit and add a little bit firmer line. It doesn't have to be super sharp, but you do want that outside line to be firmer than the inside line. The inside line can be a little bit softer as we're going to blend that in there. So once you have that in place, you can think about your other colors. You don't have to make a blue eye. It could be green, brown, purple, silver, really any color you want, but I'm using blue for today. I have blue eyes, so maybe that's why. Using my next color, if you are using Prismacolor, this is Blue Lake. I'm bringing in, I'm blending in, coloring over the colors I just did, and bringing that in with some lines that are pointing towards the center. I want all the lines pointing towards the center because that'll give the real look of the radiating lines around the colored portion of the eye. I can throw in some other colors, a Jade Green perhaps, as I go towards the center to give some interest to that eye to make it look really nice. You can add colors that you like. In this case though, it's a Jade Green, and notice that I'm actually coloring over the color I've already created with the lighter color. So as I go inward, I'm still going back and coloring over that outside. That's going to give me that blended look. That's going to give me that nice look of the blended color. And finally, I'm going to end with a chartreuse green. You can use any light green or lighter version of the color you're using. Black, brown, green, you know, you can just go to a gray color if you're using black, a light green color if you're using blue or dark green, and so on. So that's going to give me a nice look there. I do want to make sure that the top of the eye, just below the eyelid, is going to be very dark. So I'm going to come back in with that indigo blue and make sure that's really dark on top, because the eyelid's actually going to cast a shadow. So if it's very bright under the eyelid, that will look a little bit unnatural. I'm avoiding my highlights, of course, but I'm just going in there, making sure that's a little bit darker right there, and I can do another layer even around the outside if I want to. If I press a little lighter, that's going to blend really nicely into my eye shape. So it's really layers, and blending is the key, just getting that all in there, and then going back with a lighter color, such as this sky blue light color, if you are using Prismacolors, and just blending that all together, making sure all the light areas don't look scratchy, all the white areas are filled except for those highlights, and just bringing it all in together so you have that really neat color there. Okay. We don't want to just leave the eye hanging in space, so with a light gray or light blue color, this is a 10% warm gray from the Prismacolor set. You do want to add a little bit of shading on the top of the white part of the eye. If you don't add that, it's going to look a bit weird. The white part of the eye is never really white. You're going to see some color in it. There's going to be some shading in it that you get that rounded look. If you want to use a pure white to blend that in, you certainly can, by going over the top and just trying to soften that edge a little bit, blend that edge a little bit and bring it in. But then we at least have a look of this rounded eye rather than just a blank white piece of paper, which is going to look too flat. That's really going to be too flat looking. So I'm bringing that around. This is actually just a pure white colored pencil, but it is adding some texture and color to the paper. If you do want to make that more dramatic, you can add a darker gray on top of that, and just have that come down just from the top and maybe a tiny bit on the sides there, and bring that in so we can have a little bit more rounded look. And again, you can blend that with the lighter gray or the white and just blend that all together. If you don't have a soft pencil, it will not blend as smoothly as this, but it will still give you a nicer look than if you just use nothing. For skin tone, it certainly can be any skin tone you want. You would want to look at the highlight of your skin tone. So if you're looking at a photo or your own skin or whatever it is you're looking at, you would just make a light version of that color. So it'd be a light peach or beige or brown, and then you would work your way to the darker colors there. So in this case, I'm just doing a little area around the eye so it's not floating in space. It doesn't look like it's just a planet, an orb floating in space. And then I'm going to use, so that was the light peach color, and then I can come in with this beige sienna or another beige color. It doesn't really matter as long as it's just a little bit darker and it matches. You can test your colors on the side of the paper or on a scratch sheet of paper to see if they work well together before starting to color. And if your pencils aren't this soft, if they don't blend as much as this, it's fine. You can just add your colors and it'll still look better than just using only one color. If you're using multiple colors for your center of your eye, if you're layering it, you're still gonna get a nice look. It's still gonna look good. So just give that a try. And then right on the bottom, the eyelid is gonna be a little bit darker. So I'll rough that in right there. Under the eye itself, you might see a bit of a line there of shadow. There are really no lines in nature, but we draw lines to imitate where the light and shadow are meeting, is what we're doing there. On the side, we're going to see a little bit more darkness where there's that corner of the eye, on the edge of the eye. There's a little overlap. We have our tear ducts on one side and a little overlap there where the eye is sort of sitting into the eyelid, looking really nice. And on the side we do have a lot of shadow as we get to the edge of the face, that's going to be more in shadow. And then even under the eyebrow, that's going to be more in shadow. If you do have that soft pencil, you can go back to your lighter color, whatever that is. In my case, the light peach. And you can go over it again, and that will blend the colors together and make it look a little more natural. You can spend a lot of time on this and really just take your time, make it nice and smooth. You don't have to speed through this process, you know. This is just for you to have fun, to enjoy making art, and relax. So don't get frustrated, don't give up, just give it a try. And if your first eye looks a bit creepy, you know what, make it into a monster or dragon or something like that. You don't have to, you know, just stick with a human eye and say, oh, it doesn't look like it. Just have fun with it, you know, enjoy yourself. Don't stress out. For the edges, I'm going to darken up those edges just a little bit more in that eye, just make it a little bit more dramatic. And you can use that dark blue, you can layer with black, you can just use any darker color just to make that have a little more drama right there. And then you can certainly mix it with the lighter color. So I did a black there, and then I'm just going over that with a dark blue so it doesn't look too too artificial. And then that's our eye. That's a sort of a quick draw. You can certainly spend a lot of time on it, but this is the basics where you can get started and just have fun with it.